I'd like to have hear some comments from Hazur concerning one article published in a Saudi newspaper.
Yes. Which is Jamhuriya, Al-Jamhuriya?
No, the message.
The message.
Yes.
And he's edited by Jonker? It's the same.
I think, yes. Yes.
Magazine?
Ghalib Jonker, yeah.
Ghalib Jonker, that's right.
Saudi Gazette.
Now, I have read this article myself, and I want you to raise the points which you also think are necessary for us to answer. What are the points which he has made regarding the Gambia?
One of the points which really surprised me, he said that our Jamaat has praised the President of Gambia after he has issued his orders for our people to leave the country, and that is purely contradictory for what we have seen ourselves.
What else does he say? Tell us the points. He presents a completely wrong picture of what's happening in the Gambia. He assumes that the Gambian government has thrown out Ahmadis out of their land and have declared Ahmadis as though non-Muslims. And they have played the game of the Imam, who is a Saudian imposed Imam on a mosque in the Gambia. This is what I thought. Is that right or wrong?
Yes.
It is absolutely false. All his claims are totally groundless. And they are contradictory to what actually happened in the Gambia. Now, if you like, I can, after this translation, I can make a brief comment on this, because it is very essential for us to tell the Arab world that they have amongst themselves a big liar. See? A non-white man who tells white lies. Please. And the main point he has raised is that despite the fact that the President of Gambia, President Jammeh, had taken all punitive measures against Ahmadis and had made it impossible for Ahmadiyya to work in his country, yet, being embarrassed by the situation, I am praising him unnecessarily to show the world that he is now all right. This is the central point of this article. Now I'll tell you briefly what happened in the Gambia. To begin with, this President Jammeh was taken to Saudi Arabia by his own Minister of Religion. And there he was offered a red carpet treatment. And he was also offered the pulpit of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And from there he made a statement, among other things, against Ahmadis, and for which an Imam appeared and praised him so fabulously, as though no defender of Islam had ever been born since the time of Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam, like this man Jammeh. And this whole process was not shown on Saudi television, was not shown on any television. It was just video recorded for home consumption in the Gambia, so that the Gambian people would be deceived that our president is so highly praised and held in such high esteem by Saudians as no other man in the world can match him. This was only to deceive this president himself as well. He was thrown under the impression that all this was being disclosed and done, to everybody. We have got hold of that video, which is prepared only in their own language. So, whatever comments are made could not be understood by any Arab anyway. First, let him translate this, then I'll come to the second part. Now, in that video, this Imam is shown as hanging his hands by his side during the prayer.
The Imam of the President?
This Imam, this Sadr, President, Jame, is shown to have his hands hanging by his side and looking during the namaz at this side and that side, watching other people do things. It appears that this man had never said any prayer before. If you see this video, this is their leader, whom they are praising as the true spiritual son, Nauz Billah min Zalik, of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. A son like whom never was a champion of Islam born in the previous history of 1400 years. I'm finding out if the television customs permit us to show that part. We'll show it on our television to Mr. Jonker and everybody to see. When he returned from there, immediately the Imam, who apparently was the state Imam, the one whose picture he has shown, he started saying unbearable things, vicious, filthy things about Hazrat Masih Maud and Jamaat Ahmadiyya. And throughout that period, his speeches or addresses, sermons, were televised by the Gambian government. And Sadr Jame was shown sitting there with full respect. Now, this is where the story of our fight back begins. We propagated against this behavior and told the whole world that this is a hypocrite, this Sadr. He is trying to carve out a portion of Africa and hand it over to Pakistan and Saudians, etc. This part of the so-called Gambia, will no longer be acceptable to the rest of Africa, because the Union of Africans, of which this president is also a sworn member, has clearly decided that they are secular. This Union of Africans has said that they are not religious, they are not concerned with anybody's religion. They are a secular government. They are secular governments united together. And this is also the attitude of Africa everywhere. In each house, not in each house, but in so many houses of Nigeria, Ghana, etc., the family members are split into an idolater, a Muslim, a Christian, even Baha'is sometimes. And they live in perfect unison with each other. Religion is not permitted to play a role of mutual hatred. So when we told all the African countries what is happening here, and when we told the Western countries that this president tells you that they are secular, so aid us financially. They are cheating them, they are not secular. This is what has happened. Then this president was panicked. So much so that he began to first of all disown himself from the mosque in which the Imam gave his sermons, and from the Imam as well, by telling us or telling the world that this Imam is not representing any official view of the government, and that mosque is not a mosque owned by the government of the Gambia. When we investigated it further, it was revealed that this mosque was built entirely by Saudi money on the understanding between them and the government that they will have their own imam imposed in this mosque, on this mosque. And whatever he says, he will be free to say. And his monthly payment will be made by Saudians and not by the Gambian government. When this was revealed, they said, look here, this is why we can't interfere. We cannot interfere because this is neither our mosque nor our imam. He is directly being harnessed by the Saudian government. What can we do? In response to this, we told them, be sensible. Why must you relay his sermons on the national Gambian television, as though this was the official policy of the government? So the fight went on, until at last they had to bow down to the pressure. And one fine morning, a statement by the government was issued in the press, on television, on radio, which said that as far as the government of the Gambia is concerned, Ahmadis are not only Muslims, they are the best Muslims. Anybody who dares to say anything against Ahmadis, the government will see to it that he is destroyed. Will support Ahmadis in all their views and do everything to help their cause. This is, it was said, a decision of the cabinet of the Gambia. When I praised the President Jammeh, it was then that I praised him, not before. And in the same statement, they said such foul things about this imam, which are on the record in every press of the Gambia. Mr. Jonker, I don't know in which world does he live. All the English newspapers, if he doesn't know Arabic, all the English newspapers of the Gambia are full of this declaration, in which such foul names are given to this imam that the government statement says this is a foul-mouthed person. All he says, we have nothing to do with it. And yet, we will not permit him to say anything against Ahmadiyyat in future. If he does so, he'll be punished. Now, when they had declared this, then I praised them. And I praised him that, thank God, they have begun to see the light of the day. And during the next sermon and the next and the next, this imam never opened his foul mouth against Ahmadiyya. See? Translate it, and then I'll again say the last bit. Please.
Probably, yes.
What I mean to say is that if I permit you to leave now,
yeah,
there is so much more to say about this. We'll continue the subject during the next session. Inshallah.
Hazur, just I want to know, I did not get the point about the pressure of the African countries.
The African countries, including the Gambia, including Nigeria, and Ghana, and East African countries like Kenya and Tanzania, they all sent faxes and written protests in other forms, like telegrams and so on. And they filled the table of this President of the Gambia. They said, what are you doing? This sheer nonsense. Decide where you belong. If you want to belong to Africa, you must behave with common sense and behave like we do. If you want to get out of Africa, go to hell wherever you like. But you will not be counted among African countries after this. these strong protests were published in their newspapers, were sometimes televised, and faxes, etc., of protests were sent, were bombarded on this president. It was this pressure which made him realize that his game cannot be played. It's over. And from then on, what happened? Partly I have told you, and the rest I will tell you.
Now it's clear, sir.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.